of, let's call it net positive boating organization or club that focuses on marketing the idea that you just said, that it's not as impactful, and here's all of the things. If you're a net positive boater, here's the standard in which you would have to meet, not using plastic, not doing certain things. And so it would be both a marketing initiative, but it would also be initiative to encourage / monitor / force improvement as well. And it's all about net positive boating, which would be, yes, on the environment, but it could also be in the communities. It could be, this club has eliminated this much plastic off from beaches. So when you go into an area, when a new boat comes to this area, they're a net positive boat, and they're going to do all of these things, maintain these standards, but at the same time, they're going to do something for the community / the environment while they're here.
Greg Marshall, when I first started working with him, and he kind of stopped me. He was like, Craig, stop advertising yachting and super yachting as green. It is a horribly polluting industry. It's full of bad chemicals and bad things. You cannot make a green boat right now. And I felt like everything deflated out of me. I'm like, but there's hope. And that's just the way Greg is. He's very matter of fact, and he's challenging me. But that's the challenge, and he's not wrong. Fiberglass is a horrible material that has no recycling capability, and a lot of the big boats do. Steel, arguably, all the welding that goes on and whatnot, not alone the products and glues and stuff that are in everything. I mean, it's not clean. Then you get to the actual fact that it uses diesel to run it. He's like, what's environmentally friendly about this? And since then, so that was about 7 years ago. Since then, we've talked a lot more and moved things a lot longer on our conversations. But because there are these green products available, electric is becoming a possibility. We actually designed the marina to be able to be charged. There's enough. We have our own unit substation, which is kind of rare in a marina, and we can actually power a small city with it. But that's the amount of power you need to actually charge yachts of that size.
Our industry has this negative perception. Mm-hmm. You see it in movies, you see it in things, the yacht owner's evil, that unknown for people. They don't really understand our industry and who the people behind it is. Are there some bad players in our industry and people who are doing bad things? Just like anywhere else, I'm sure. But I think it's a lack of education, and it's something, I feel like it's a broken record.
We've been speaking about somewhat the negative perception of yachting, and I don't think that it's that unjustified in many ways with a lot of the old kind of practices that we're really used to. And I wonder, with something as unique as what Arcson's offering, whether or not you run into that perception problem, or how do you tackle that from your perspective?
That's kind of the reason for setting up Arcson, was to do something different, to fight against vessels sat in marinas not going anywhere, not doing what they're built to do. And so it was very much making sure we're designing something that can go on adventures. It started from that core of having access to adventure and being able to go and do some fun stuff, but then also wanting to do it in a new way. So not using the standard practices, working in partnership with different builders, using looking at the circular economy and the principles of the yacht itself. So before you even get into where the boat goes and what it does, it's thinking throughout the life process of it, choosing the materials that are better.
Yeah, maybe it's that assumption that the way that we build and operate yachts has always been a certain way, and then we kind of hand them over to owners and expect them to do something different with it, as opposed to taking it back to first principles and
it's responsibility. It's responsibility that we as boat builders, it's not just there you go, off you go. I hope you're going to do well. That's why we set up the Explorers Club, so that we are guiding people on adventures, which will help them go and use them, which will make sure that they're not a wasted resource by being sat in the marina. So they're being. But
I guess that means that necessitates a level of challenging the owners, right?
Yeah.
It's sitting down, perhaps having a conversation that pushes some of those boundaries, because I think sometimes we sit back and say, almost too differential, and there is a way. You say there is a different way to do it, and here's how you can.
we're not just like putting hybrid propulsion into our vessels, working on the solar power systems to help reduce the impact and everything else. We're doing the recycled aluminium and everything, but we're not just doing that so then you can just go off and
business as usual.
Yeah,
and that's back to what we're saying about the perception problem. You change perception through action.
Yes.
Right. It's not. It's one thing to say that's changed the perception.
Yeah.
I mean, I can write many articles and say many words, but it's actions that speak much louder. Talking to owners and building them a platform that can do all of these things, and then the perception changes itself, right?
It's those case studies of getting people out there, and how do you change behaviour? It's like you can learn it through other people. You can nudge it. The nudge theory. I love behavioural economics, behavioural science side of things, because it does go into the marketing, but it's looking at it from how can we as a boat builder, can we set up our options better? Can we nudge people in certain directions like we do with the Sea Time Pledges? All of these things are trying to sort of get people to think about how they go and explore in a different way, but also providing the opportunity to go and do it. So we as a manufacturer, we provide them the service to be able to go and learn how to do, to be trained up to go and do an adventure. We'll help them plan the itinerary, we'll provide the concierge service to be able to do it. It's removing those barriers and making it easier.
Make it easy to do something challenging, if that makes sense.
You need to sort of, yes, there's an education, but education on its own doesn't do enough to change behaviour. There's the education for it, but then you have to nudge people as a reminder, or to provide them the opportunity. They have to have the motivation, so understanding why. But then if something's difficult, you're not going to do it. We automatically, we take shortcuts. We always take shortcuts, and just human nature.
You were one of the early supporters of the vision that we had for the forum up here. I think that's due in large part. Obviously, you've spent a lot of time here, you've cruised here, you've lived here. You've always seen that potential for the industry up here.
I did in the 80s. And once you do one season up here, in like Greg's Sons, it gets in your blood.
Yeah.
He would start, he was kind of emotional about it.
He was, yeah.
And you do feel that. I mean, you're like today, we're sitting there, eagle flies over, but you realize.
Yeah, I've never even seen a bald eagle.
No, but and every day when you're cruising, you're seeing these things, and you're totally by yourself. And you try to tell people what that's like, and it's almost spiritual. I mean, it does make you cry, because there's not many places in the world that are still like this.
No, there's not.
And it is easy to get to.
Yeah.
It isn't a hard place.
We were just speaking with Todd from Fifth Avenue, and
yeah.
They're getting 85% of boats that come to the Pacific, he said, and you just wonder why we can't get that number to just keep coming up north. We've spoken about that, perhaps that gap in the infrastructure in California that maybe doesn't help.
A little bit, yeah. But if you're on a boat and it's 50 meters, there's no reason you can't get here.
Yeah.
And so there should be a lot. They're saying there's 27 boats this season. There should be 270 boats this season. I mean, and even that's not
Yeah. You siphon some off at the end of the Caribbean season through the Panama Canal.
Yeah, because the whole West Coast from Panama up is an adventure. I mean, the Sea of Cortez and this are the two most beautiful places you'd ever want to cruise. You'd see more wildlife. It's just nothing like it.
Because the industry here in the Pacific Northwest is actually relatively small. We wear more hats. So whereas if you operate in the Med or someplace else, your job as an agent may be significantly smaller than mine is. I operate in an entire state. It's not uncommon for me to take a 7.5-hour round trip drive out to another port on the ocean to go greet a boat, get them in and get them settled. That's not necessarily something someone in the Med's going to do or someone in the Caribbean is going to do. My territory is larger. I work with an amazing network of agents up and down the West Coast, from Chile to Panama, Galapagos, Tahiti, Mexico, South California, here in BC, Alaska. We call it keeping them in the family. because we refer solely based on the quality of the work that's done. And we know that when that agent in that other port handles you, you are compliant with all the laws.
Yeah,
And that's a big thing, because as the agent of record for a boat, boats don't always realize the level of liability an agent takes.
yeah.
So if you, as the first mate of the captain, forget to file your ENO-ad before you leave, Customs and Border Patrol can come to me and find me as the agent of record.
I think we all have a duty to our industry to work together and make sure that we give the vessel that secure position, that this wide cruising ground, which is, linearly speaking, is, well over 2,500 miles from the time that you start it to the time that you end it, and to ask a yacht to venture out of their normal routine and come here and explore this amazing area that we have that's so diverse, where you start in Costa Rica or you start in Panama, you can have some of the surfing of your life in Costa Rica and it's 100 degrees and you're chasing monkeys through a jungle.
Yep.
Then you can go to Cabo and you can have this amazing nightlife. At the same time, you can see abundant wildlife and fishing and bill fishing like you've never done before. Then you move to San Diego, or as I've said before, you can snowboard in the afternoon and surf that same morning.
From my experience coming through here about 5 years ago, we could understand the Panama, Costa Rica area, and we thought about Mexico, and we knew we'd end up in San Diego. But we did feel a little bit alone, like we didn't quite understand where we were after years of cruising on the other side. So that transfer of information, is that what we need to do to encourage people to consider it an entire continuous journey, not just perhaps stopping at San Diego?
It's a region. It's a cruising region, and us as the partners here, it's our job to do it. It's not the boat's job. It's the boat's job, whoever touches the boat first. And there needs to be a clearinghouse. There should be I'll call it, we talk about the what if at this event. How do we do that? What if there was a central clearinghouse number that's either run by a trade association or whatever? Mm-hmm. My thought is potentially U.S. Super Yacht Association for cruising grounds in the U.S. You can call this number, and your first point of contact is probably going to be the Marine Group, because we're San Diego and Cabo.
Yep.
Right? And then once we hear you're coming north, we hand you off to the next vendor, or we hand you off. All you really need is one number. That's all we, as yacht crew and folks in the industry. If you can just give me one guy in the region, he can connect me with the electronics guy, the reefer guy.
Exactly. And I think we underestimate, to a point that Monique made earlier, we underestimate that trips can be kind of put off or not happen because that barrier, that administrative barrier, that logistically how are we going to do this kind of thing becomes too much, and the crew can influence and the owner together, and that attitude shifts.
But we don't let it overcome us or bog us down, but instead we just continue on the path we're doing and letting our business continue to grow, continue to innovate and develop. We grow at a very sustained rate. We don't grow gangbusters. We grow just a few, by a little percentage every year. That's sustainable, I think. And we are innovating. We are building greener boats, more sophisticated boats. Let's continue to do that.
Moreover, if you see the owners, they are very influential. And bridging the technology, which is in pockets available, everything is there, but it's so fragmented. But it's not there yet on the yachts that we built. If you go to a yacht now in the Netherlands, 140 meter of one of the most entrepreneurial persons in the world, I'm sure and convinced that we can persuade him to have the latest technology on fuel cells, on carbon.
What if we stop being so secretive, not only with each other as an industry, because I think that actually holds us back in a lot of places.
I think with immersion suits, they've been quite quite stagnant kind of in their development. They've been the same for a long time, and they're not really matching the capabilities of a lot of the exploration yachts,
That's
right?
correct. Now you need something better than what the immersion suits of the old days.
It's
the
a
grandfather's
minimum
immersion
standard.
suit. Yeah, this is the most advanced cold water protective suit on the market today. It far exceeds all regulations for immersion suits.
Yeah.
Yeah, it certifies with the U.S. Coast Guard, with Transport Canada and MED as an immersion suit. So you have the certificate for your boat.
Yep.
But it's much more, because it's got more more thermal protection, more than twice more thermal protection than the best other suits. The thermal protection of an Eskimo Ensemble is 4.0. This has a flow factor of 4.87, even higher than Eskimo Ensemble. It floats very good above the water, not in the water, which is good.
Yeah, because potentially if you're in the water for a long time, you need something that you're comfortable in and that,
Sure.
that you don't just survive.
And the water detracts heat 24 times faster than the air.
Yeah.
So it's better to be in the air than the water. And also you can be seen from further away. Mm-hmm. But it's got more fire protection, so you can actually go further through the flames to get to safety. You can jump from a higher deck from 10 meters to the water without any effect on the suit or on the person. It's like an airbag. It works like a cork.
And you've been dealing with a lot of the military kind of, they've been quite interested in some of the projects.
We did a show last week, CanSec and Canadian Navy and the Coast Guard are both very interested in buying the suits.
But the super yacht industry seems a little bit far behind in terms of their appreciation of just how extreme these conditions are.
Yeah, and also for me, it's obvious that the super yacht industry should be concerned about the family and their associates to try and save lives rather than just comply with the regulations.
It feels like for us to be in the Pacific, that's the kind of vessel, the kind of equipment that every yacht that operates here
Anywhere
should
that
have.
there's cold water, you need this kind of a suit.